of men. Isn't that what he told Peter? How about a shepherd? I'm the good shepherd. Why wasn't he born into a family that had shepherds? Why wasn't he a tent maker? Paul was a tent maker. His banner over us is love. Why wasn't he a tent maker? Or his banner or his covering was love. Why wasn't he a vineyard worker? Right? He's the vine, we're the branches, we produce fruit. Why wasn't he a farmer? Out sowing the seeds, spreading the seeds of God, spreading the word of God. He could have been a potter, remember? When you go to the potter's house and watch him as he makes things. But he wasn't a potter. Right? Bob, he could have been the most noble profession of all, right? He could have been a salesman. Hey, okay, great. Okay, so Melanie said that we started class on her phone, but we are now live on East Grand site. Okay, YouTube, app, or Facebook, but this feed's going to go away. So come back and join us where we're at. So okay. So we're talking why was Jesus a tecton? Why was he a stonemason? You ever wonder that? What's going on? Why? Sometimes I ask myself these questions. And then I stumble across things that makes me think, I understand. So what does a tecton do? Well, he's more than just, and you, I don't know if you guys have been on any job sites and see these rock guys, but they're putting up walls and they'll look around, they'll pick up a stone and take their hammer and just whack off a chunk and stick it in place perfectly. But they're skilled, but they're more than that. So Melanie, go ahead and flip me one more, I think. If I remember right. There we go. So a tecton, really they're the designer. They have to design something. Then they're the architect, because they have to kind of plan it out. Then they're a craftsman that actually puts it together. They are a creator. Ding, 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 ding. That reminds you of anybody that's a creator? Right? He's a creator. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So Jesus has always been a tecton. Jesus has always been a creator. So he had to be a creator. I'm going to go to this book and the Road, the Rock, and the Rabbi. And this is written by Rabbi Jason Sobel. Makes these comments. And sorry, I don't like to read out of a book, but I think this will kind of make it all come together. The Greek word tecton can be related as stonemason or architect. All these concepts are significant in reference to Jesus, since they connect back to him as the architect of creation. Again, Genesis 1:1. The first word of Genesis in Hebrew is bereshit, which is commonly translated as in the beginning. But bereshit can also be translated as through the firstborn. Since the Hebrew letter bet is also preposition through, and reshit can mean firstborn. So Genesis 1:1 can be translated, through the firstborn, God created the heavens and the earth. And who is the firstborn? Jesus, of course. The New Testament tells us he was the firstborn over all creation. That's Colossians 1:15. And the firstborn from the dead, and that's Revelation 1:5. Jesus is the tecton, the architect of all creation. This reading aligns perfectly with the Apostle John's understanding of creation in John 1:3. He states, through him all things were made, Without him, nothing was made that has been made. So we have Jesus as a tecton creator from the very beginning. So any comments, any thoughts, any kind of nothing? Everybody just kind of going, Wait till next week when this was with the... The Word was God, the Word was with God, yes. Yes. Well, it's the same concept, but it kind of helps me draw it all back together when I see that from the beginning this was the plan. And kind of like Jesus had to be a tecton, had to be a carpenter, because that's what he always was. And it helps me see, and I'm going to get to it, I hope, here in a minute, of what it really draws and kind of what it means to us a little bit deeper. At least it meant something to me. So we're going to... Yes. Earthly profession matches heavenly purpose and his heavenly profession, if you will, since he was the one who created all things. So as we look back at Genesis 1:1, and then we talk about Jesus as God, that God created us in his image, that kind of gets to one of these rabbit issues. And I'm just going to cover it. And most of you guys know I'm not that sharp. I recycle a lot of stuff. Bob Ross, he has happy accidents. Well, we're not going to have happy painting accidents, but we'll chase a few rabbits. So when you start talking about God, and you have God, you have Jesus, you have the Spirit, you have three, but they're one, how does that all make sense? And the best analogy that I've heard, and I'm sure you all have heard it, but for those who haven't, is this simple piece of fruit. So, how many apples do I have? One apple. And this reddish, goldish, wrinkled thing on the outside is the skin. So if you think of Jesus being the skin, he is the flesh that we see. In the middle, or the meat of the apple, or the fruit of the apple, if you will, consider it the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit, how nice. Okay. That as the meat. And at the core of the apple, or the heart, if you will, is God. We have three things in this one apple. We have three things in God. It's still one, but they're all different. So that kind of helps me understand a little bit about who God is and what's going on with. And like I said, that just helps me. It's very simple. You want an in-depth discussion? Talk to Don. He'll fill you in. What? Yeah, Ron. Yeah. Yes. His profession, like Joseph was a tecton, Jesus would have been a tecton or carpenter. Yeah. I can. Will I? Yes, I even will. So Ron asked, when I asked what Jesus' profession was, he was asking, is that what Jesus got paid to do as a livelihood, if you will, for the first 30 years of his life before he started his ministry? He was a teacher at the age 30 is when he went to be a teacher and did his traveling. But he wasn't paid for that until after, and actually he was never paid for it. He just received donations and people helped him out on his travel and his ministry. Yep. Okay, so let's see, pop in the next slide here. Let me see if I remember where I'm going. Okay, so we have several verses that talk about God and the Creator, both Old Testament and New Testament. Genesis 1:1 already mentioned. In the beginning, God. Melanie, go ahead and flip me over to that next one. So in Genesis 1:26 and 27, God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So we see the consistency of Jesus and God being a creator from the beginning. And there are several Psalms that also cover this, where, I am joyfully and wonderfully made. So there's just a lot of creation in Psalms as well. But in the New Testament, we have, there we go, I think. Okay, John 1:1-4. Melanie mentioned this before. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. So things were made, things were created. So obviously we see Jesus being the creator here. And then I think I have one more New Testament in Colossians 1:15-16. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. So we see that this was his profession. This is what Jesus did all along. He was a creator. Now, we know, go ahead and flip me. I think I'm ready. Okay. So some of the stuff on the right may have been some things that Jesus did, things like this. The one on the right is what is called a Herod stone, or a stone that is sculpted on the design of what King Herod did. There was an amphitheater in Nazareth. Jesus probably worked on that. But we see just taking the stone and carving it down. And then on your left is that famous sculpture of David by Michelangelo. Now, we all know that making sculptures is easy. Like 4 steps, right? 4 steps. Go ahead and run me through those 4 steps, Melanie. Right? Okay, it's easy, right? Simple. Get a slab of marble, piece of cake. 2, get a hammer. 3, get some chisels. 4, remove everything that doesn't look like David. Simple. Nothing to it. But instead, it's a very hard and tedious process. And we know that you just don't come along and knock things out. I want to just take a second to talk about, well, you know me in a second. I'm like Sheldon. In conclusion, so we'll be done by 10:30. So let's go back to the statue, that next picture, I think is where I'm at. So what do you know about the sculpture of Michelangelo? The sculpture of David by Michelangelo. One of the world's most famous pieces. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot to talk about us being rocks. Doggone it. Okay, Isaiah 51, 1-2. We are, go ahead and roll the next couple slides, I think. Okay, Isaiah 51, 1-2. So we are kind of like rocks. Jesus is sculpting us. Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness and who seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were cut, and to the quarry from which you were hewn. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarah who gave you birth. When I called him, he was only one man, and I blessed him and made him many. So we are cut from the rock that is God. And then go to the next one. 1 Peter. As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to him. You also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So I told you we're kind of running on a separate little track here, kind of parallel, but kind of not. But I'm hoping to tie this all together here in just a minute. So back to David and Michelangelo. Did you know that the stone that Michelangelo used was rejected? It was the first architect that looked at it. Actually, it was a leftover piece of marble, 17 by 3, 18 by 3, give or 4, give or take. It was just left over. But the people who had it thought, we ought to make something out of that. Certainly, we can make something out of it. So they hired an architect or a sculptor, and he looked at it, and he declared that slab of marble as being useless. He called it a coal. Do you know what a coal is? Yeah? Oh, I remember that from McClintock and John Wayne, right? A specimen that is so worthless that you have to get rid of it or it will affect everything else. So he was saying, if you make this, you put it up to support something, it's going to fall, it's going to be a disaster. So the first architect, and serves him right, I forgot his name, he called it. 2 years later, they hired another sculptor. And he took the job, and he started carving on the legs. And after 3 months, he quit. He said, this rock cannot be used for anything. This marble. The veins go the wrong way. It's flaky. It's too fragile. It couldn't be used. But yet, later, when they hired Michelangelo, what I remember reading was that he spent the first 2 months, 10 hours a day, just looking at the slab of marble. Didn't pick up the hammer, didn't pick up a chisel, nothing. He just looked and studied that piece of marble. Well, see, what's that mean to us? Have you ever felt like people told you that you're useless? Have you ever felt, well, yeah, I run people the wrong way, and I'm a little bit flaky, and, and people don't always like me, and that's okay. But Jesus looks at us, and a lot of people try to make us into things that we are not. But Jesus never tries to make us into something we are not. He is the great tecton. He's the great sculptor. Let's face it, Michelangelo couldn't even be an apprentice to sweep out the trash in Jesus' shop. Because Jesus is the great tecton. He looks at us and sculpts us. He makes us into what he sees that we can be. To our best us is who he puts us together as. So he's sculpting us and turning us into the best possible us. See, so he is the creator. He is creating us. And by using that, we know that he's going to form us into what we can be. So as we wrap up here, you guys obviously saw the blank easel up here. And I said we're going to kind of paint a mental picture. And I hope as we go through each week, you're going to develop a deeper picture and understanding of who God is. It'll never be complete. And in fact, this is kind of odd. No, it's not really odd. So let me pull this off. Karen and I started painting a picture, and we'll add to it each week. So the funny thing is, we saw the same video. You see that? But the pictures look nothing alike. You see, we all see God, but he's personal to each one of us. Yeah, okay, they each have sky, they each have a mountain, but yet it's different. Hers is a landscape view. Mine's a portrait view. It's different. It's unique. And that is who God is to each one of us. We have the same God, but he is unique to each one of us. So if you have any questions, any comments, I will try to be going through online and look to see if there's any comments online and see what anybody has to say, and I'll remark on those next week. You guys can email me, send me questions, catch me after class if you have comments, any questions about that. Next week we'll be doing Jesus is the Light. Any parting shots before we go? Okay, it's 10:15, and glad you were here this morning. Please join us for worship here in about 15 minutes. Thanks for being here.